Happy Bi Visibility Day! It's the best day of the year. This is one of my favourite videos to do. This is my third year in a row doing this video and I'm so excited that it is another Bi Visibility Day. I cannot find my bisexual flag anywhere. It has ironically become invisible for Bi Visibility Day. So for the set decoration for this year's Bi Visibility Day, we've got the bisexuals and we're also joined by pansexual icon David Rose. So that's what we're going for today. New location again, I'm still figuring out in this new flat where I like to film. And I've got some recommendations for you on some brilliant books that I've read so far this year that feature bisexual characters and themes. I was kind of worried when I was planning this video that I wouldn't have any more books to talk to you about because I have done this exact video twice before and I was like, I'm going to be running out of books with bi characters in them, but I've read a lot of books this year. I've read a lot of books with queer characters and I've read a lot of books with bisexual characters. So this isn't even all the books. This is like a selection of the best books I've read so far this year, which is a really nice position to be in, to like present you with a curated selection. I don't have any books from my TBR to talk about because I don't even know what's on my TBR anymore. I've lost track. I can't keep track. There's no books on my TBR that I know for sure have bi characters in them that I haven't read yet. So these are just books that I have read, and they're in no particular order, by which I mean they're in reverse order that I read them because that's how I picked them out. I scrolled backwards through my reading tracker. So yeah, I've got 5 books to talk about. Let's just get stuck in. Let's get straight into it. We're not going to do straight anything. We're going to get stuck in to this video. And there's also a bit of an unofficial tradition that this is a very chaotic video. And I think that is going to happen again, judging by the last 30 seconds. So the first book I'm going to talk about, I've actually discussed very recently because I only read it last month, and that is The Low Road by Catherine Quarmby. This book is beautiful. It is stunningly written. It is historical fiction. It follows the life of a real person. It's a kind of semi-fictionalised depiction of her life and the lives of the people around her in early 19th century Britain. And it's about the hardships she faces and how she overcomes them. Some of them she can't overcome and she just has to keep pushing through, keep moving on to the next thing. Now, of course, in like the 1830s, then the word bisexual was not a commonly used one among the people of society. So this character doesn't really have an identity to attach herself to as such. She falls in love with a woman, she falls in love with a man, and she decides she's okay with that. That she kind of reconciles that with herself, and that's part of her growth as a character, part of her journey as a character, is realising that she can do those two things and they're both valid and they're both real to her and they're both a part of her story. It's not a happy story by any means, but all of the unhappiness comes from things separate from her sexuality, pretty much. So it's a balancing act, this one. If you want queer joy, there's not much joy in this book, but it is beautifully written and a very tender and honest depiction of life as a queer woman in Victorian London. So the next one is one of my most anticipated reads for this year, and I got it on NetGalley. I got to read it early and I loved it. It was, of course, Trouble by Lex Croucher. I love Lex Croucher's books. I've read all their Regency books. I still haven't read Gwen and Art, but I have read all their Regency books. And this might be my favourite. I think it might have pipped Reputation to the post. I think it might be my favourite. It's The Sound of Music but with chaotic bisexuals. That's basically, that's what this book is. So the main character, Emily, she is a reluctant governess. She does not want to be a governess. She is sort of committing identity fraud to be a governess because she needs a job, her family needs someone to have a job, her sister gets a job but is too ill to take it, so she pretends to be her sister and become the governess to the children of a semi-retired naval captain. She reluctantly finds a family. The main character does everything against her will. She doesn't want to fall in love, she doesn't want to have a found family, she doesn't want to find joy, and she finds all those things and is initially mad about it and then gets over it, and I love that. So of course there's this like will they won't they, all this tension with her and the captain, and he has some secrets that she realises may be more significant than she had initially assumed. He's bi, that's the secret, is that he's bi. There's also a really lovely coming out story with a trans character, queer fan family, as I've said a bazillion times, and I will continue to say for every book that has it, found family, we love it. I love reading an MF relationship where they are both queer. This hardly ever happens in books, but happens all the time in real life. And I loved it. It was such a great read. It was so brilliant. Next up is a YA contemporary, and that is They Hate Each Other by Amanda Woody. Now, don't let this cover fool you. The cover, the marketing, make it look like a very cutesy romance. And the blurb talks all about how they're enemies to lovers, how they have a fake relationship. That is not the case. Well, that does happen, but so does a whole other load of stuff. Both main characters are bi in this book, and as soon as each one of them comes out, their friends are like, you should totally date the only other bi guy at school. And they're like, no, because I hate him. So eventually they start fake dating, and they start to realise that the other one has a lot more going on in their lives than they initially assumed. From very, very different backgrounds, have very, very different stories to how they got to where they are, and it's more complicated than just saying they help each other. There are some really difficult, complex things going on in these characters' lives, and I thought they were dealt with really well. The difficulties of having a friend go through that and having to make that judgment call as to whether you betray their trust in order to save them. I just thought it was really tenderly done. It was very emotional, and it did have those like cutesy romance moments, but there is so much more to this book than that. It blew me away. It really, really, I was not expecting this book to be what it was. And it was just excellent. It was really excellent. Next up is one of the best books I've read so far this year. It's definitely a contender for best book of the year, and that is Catfish Rolling by Clara Kumagai. This is a bit of a genre fusion. There's fantasy, there's science fiction, there's magical realism, there's folklore, there's sort of literary fiction. It's all rolled into one, pun not intended from the title. And it's just brilliant. It's so perfectly executed, and I just loved it. The story is based on Japanese folklore that there is a catfish that is trapped underneath the islands of Japan, and that is why there are earthquakes and volcanoes and tremors. It's this catfish wriggling to get free. And in this story, in this world, then when there was an earthquake a few years ago, then it caused not just rifts in the land, but rifts in time as well. So there are some zones where time travels faster, and there are some zones where time travels slower. Now the main character, her father works investigating these zones, but he is starting to suffer because of it. So she takes over his work, and she is determined to find her mother. She's convinced her mother is missing in one of these zones. It's really, really worth the read. There are so many different aspects to it, and it's just, like, I cannot think of a single thing wrong with this book. It is flawless. Really, really incredible. And this is one where the romance is not a huge part of it. It is there, but it's not the main kind of storyline. The character's sexuality is not a big part of the story. It's just who she is, and the people that she falls for are the people that she falls for. And I love that. I love that. And the final book I'm going to talk to you about today is Friday I'm in Love by Cameron Garrett. This is one of the first books I read this year. It set the reading year off to such a good start. And it's just, again, it's a YA contemporary. So wholesome and lovely, and just, I loved it. So the main character, Mahalia, she never got to have a sweet 16. So she decides she's going to have a coming out party instead, and she's going to pay for it all herself. She wants to buy this amazing dress that's on the cover on Etsy, and it's about her, it's just a sort of snapshot of her life over that period of time. So the coming out party is obviously a big part of the story, but really it's about her family, her friends, the way all those relationships shift and change, the secrets she has from her past, and about one young woman trying to just find her way in the world. Each chapter actually opens with her bank balance and the things that she has managed to save and the things she's had to spend each month, whether that was supporting her family or getting car repairs, when she took extra shifts at work, whatever it is that she's saving up for this party. And it was just a really nice way to tie the story together, to keep that kind of overarching plot tied in with the day-to-day of her life. It was a really fun read, and the end was just so sweet. I loved it. It was just great. Really lovely coming-of-age story. So there we go. There are 5 recommendations of books with bi characters and themes for Bi Visibility Day. So if you have any recommendations for me, then please do let me know. I'm always looking for more queer books, and especially more books with bi characters. So please let me know if there are any books that you would recommend to me. If you've read any of the books that I've recommended, what did you think of them? Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and click subscribe if you would like more videos from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra for now.